You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenescope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
No, Darkseid. To get off this rock, you'll have to go through me.
You really are a glutton for punishment. Time and again I've beaten you, humbled you. What makes you think today's outcome will be any different?
Because this time, I won't stop until you're just a greasy smear on my fist. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 376.5. I'm, of course, TFG1Mike. Joining me is Mr. Joe Reed. Hello, sir.
Hello.
I honestly don't remember I think the last time you were on was episode 362. We did Batman TMNT 2. Mm-hmm. Before then, I think it was episode 358 when we did the first issue of this. What we're going to talk about, the second issue of this today, but DC Comics, DC Black Label, Superman Year 1, issue number 2. I was not thrilled with this at all, but before we get into that, story and art are done by Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. Danny Mickey is on inks. Alex Sinclair is on color. John Workman is the letterer. John Romita Jr. with Danny Mickey and Alex Sinclair did the cover. Frank Miller with Alex Sinclair have done the variant covers for this issue. I remember kind of enjoying the first issue, Clark learning his powers as a kid, growing up in the high school thing and the bullying and all this and all that, and we left off with that issue of him going into the military at Naval Station Great Lakes here in Illinois. Well, this issue sees him, basically, I'm just going to boil it down and burn it down for you folks like he would with his heat vision, sees him washing out of the Navy and then going to Atlantis. What?
Wait a minute. I just realized they're on Lake Michigan, wherever this is. This is like underwater world Lake Michigan.
Yeah, they're trying to say that Atlantis is in Lake Michigan.
Yeah, like. Okay.
Oh no! They're not saying that. I'm sorry. They're not. We go to Great Lakes, Illinois, and we see him doing everything else, and then he transfers out to the Pacific. So it is kind of correct.
All right, I see.
That's what it is.
Do they actually name it as Atlantis, or is it just miscellaneous Greek underwater city?
No, they say Atlantis because this is what happens. Sorry, folks. I just literally woke up out of a dead sleep in the middle of the day, but he was at Great Lakes Naval Base in Illinois. He gets transferred to the amphibious base out in Coronado. So that's where this is. The most of this book takes place is in Coronado, out there in the Pacific Ocean kind of thing. And basically, this feels like, to me, a less funny version of the beginning of Full Metal Jacket is what the rest of before he gets to Atlantis, right before he washes out, this whole Navy thing feels like Sergeant Hartman versus Gomer Pyle, even though in this case Gomer Pyle has superpowers. But yes, they do call it Atlantis, the paradise demolished. Yep. So it is Atlantis. The only difference is, to my knowledge at this point, they are using Poseidon and not Arthur Curry, Aquaman. So this isn't Superman, and that's the first thing I thought of when I saw Atlantis, Paradise demolished. I'm like, oh,
he's going to meet Aquaman.
Yeah, he's going to meet Aquaman, and that's not what happens at all. What happens is this mermaid falls in love with him, wants him to make her queen, and he has to go back and he has to get washed out of the military. Not that he wanted to do that, but we see a turn in his character, which I think is good. They constantly promote killing. They try to ingrain that into him, like, go ahead, that's another kill, that's another kill, that's another kill. And his stomach is turning. Like, he doesn't want to do this. Yep. He doesn't want to be a killer. He wants to be a journalist. I swear to God, now that I think about this after reading it 2 different times, he is Joker from Full Metal Jacket, 4212, Basic Military Journalism. What the hell, Joker? So he does wash out, and instead of just going out the front door, he hops the fence and walks into the ocean with his bags and everything on his back, and he goes back to, I believe her name is Lori, and he then puts on his uniform, his real uniform, and I believe this is the first time we've seen him wear it in this series. I don't know. Not too keen on it. It's alright.
I remember, when you hear about the origin of Superman and all these cool things happen, he learns his powers, and of course we all remember when he spent, like a year of his life underwater doing... Wait, what? Wait, no, this didn't happen, and no one asked for this. The whole issue with him going down there, this being, I guess, the primary part of the issue, just seems so out of place from everything we would have expected from a Superman's first year. His first year was spent underwater?
Yeah,
it's a little weird to me. But he's down here with this mermaid in love with him, and I think, am I right here that Poseidon is like, you have to prove yourself or you're worthless, and so they keep throwing things at Superman, trying to wipe him out, and he's beating them, kind of both discovering his new powers or discovering how strong he actually is as he's defeating these things.
Yeah. They've thrown electric eels at him. They threw a kraken at him. I think my favorite part out of this whole issue is the panel where it's right before his trials and tribulations start. It's where he's kind of sitting on, underwater on the bedrock, and he says, "I can just see it. Clark Kent, King of the Seven Seas. That's got one heck of a ring to it. Get your tickets now, folks." I added the folks part, but it's basically him in his super suit underwater musing about whether he's going to be king of the sea or not. And I'm like, what?
This happened the last time that I remember reading something by Frank Miller. Frank Miller was awesome in the 80s and 90s. I loved the Daredevil stuff, the Batman stuff, and then what was it? It was the Batman and Robin, and that first issue, I think that was pretty awesome. And I don't remember if it was at the end of the first issue or at the end of the second, and it takes this turn, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? Nobody asked for that. Look, he drafts Robin into the war. You're a soldier now. But wait, Frank Miller, no. And he kind of does the same thing with Superman here, where I thought Frank Miller would have gotten over his hatred of Superman. He treats him like a clown in Batman Dark Knight. And that first issue was so good of this.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, all right, he's painting him like a human who's learning these things about himself, and then it goes all weird.
Yeah, it went very weird, and I'm not a fan of it. I think the art is amazing. I think the art is very good. The story is it just killed me. It just was to the point of, what in the sand? Like, it would be different if it was something like he has to go to Atlantis to team up with, like we said just a little while ago, meeting Aquaman. That would be different. That would be kind of cool. but it's him versus Poseidon for a girl's hand. And it's like, really? Really?
Wasn't DC editorial going, I don't think anybody wants to read that.
I don't know what DC editorial is doing these days. I could have sworn they had gotten better, but I have no clue.
On the larger scale, DC's got the characters that I want to read about. I want to read about Batman. I want to read about Wonder Woman and Superman and all these guys. They have great characters, but every single time I jump on a DC book, the first issue is kind of cool, like, all right, and then the second issue, it amps it up to 11, and it throws in weird stuff like Superman fighting a Kraken. Like, wait, why can't it just goes so sideways from what I expect that I lose interest immediately. I have issue 3 of this somewhere upstairs, I think, but and I haven't read it yet. But God, I hope it comes back to reality after this.
How much more do we want to say about issue number 2? Because I think we've pretty much boilerplated it as far as what happens in the issue and our disliking of it.
Yeah.
And I know this is probably going to end up being a short episode, folks, and we're sorry for that, but I can't talk at length about, like, yeah, I don't like this, and this is why I don't like it. This was very weird to me. Like I said, the art is good. It didn't impress me as much as the art in the first issue did. But the story is just, okay, I understand. I completely understand why he is washing out of the Navy. Because he is not a killer. Mm-hmm. He's not that person. And plus, with who he really is, he can't be that person, because in all of those scenes that we see in this issue of him saying, this is so easy that, I have to try to for this to look difficult for me, even though it is so easy, I could, it goes back again to the end of Justice League Unlimited. I feel like I live in a world of cardboard kind of thing. It goes back to that, because he has to fake it to make sure he doesn't overdo it. Mm-hmm. And
there's a neat scene in here where I think it's a legit mission that they're on, and terrorists took over this boat. One of the bad guys pulls a grenade, and Clark grabs the guy, closes it in his hands, reaches and like kind of pulls the guy against his chest so he can see the grenade between his hands. Yeah, like reaching around him, and my favorite moments of Superman are where he's immensely powerful, but he teaches the villain a lesson in nonviolence, in that nonviolent moment where he closes it in his hand. The guy thinks everybody on that boat's going to die. Boom. But, of course, Superman can contain that in his hands. Yeah. And that terrorist there learns, like, all right, this dude just gave you your life. Go do something right with it. Love those moments. But then he goes and fights for a girl in the ocean.
Yeah.
He wants his Ariel or something. That's to the character.
Well, I mean, no, that's Warner. I was gonna say Disney now. Oh no, that's still Warner Brothers, or whatever they're on. I don't know. Anyway, yeah,
You know what I wanted issue 2 to be? Clark being a photojournalist in Afghanistan over there. Doing super things, learning to be a journalist, figuring out his powers. Like, that seems like a more interesting story. I've never seen that before. I've heard of canons where that's what he did. He went overseas and was a photojournalist before he came back and joined the Daily Planet. But it just seems so out of character to do this to me, that it's too much and too weird. And all right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if you follow wrestling all that much. I'm not sure if you're a wrestling fan.
I wouldn't say a fan, but I respect the amazing athleticism.
Okay.
The concept of it.
Okay, you take basically The Undertaker versus whomever. Let's say from a couple of years ago, it was Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, because those were the two of the biggest guys in WWE currently. they have 3 matches. So they have one match where one of them wins, the other match where the other one wins, and then you have the third match, the rubber match. This is kind of like that middle match of a 3-way kind of battle where it's like we said, they threw this weird monkey wrench into it, and it's like, wait, what? This is like introducing Hornswoggle into a Brock Lesnar Undertaker match for some stupid reason in my mind. I don't know. I would have loved to have seen what you're saying. I wish that that's what they would have done instead of taking this detour to Atlantis. But sadly, that isn't what we got. 0 to 5 on the rating scale for me. I'm probably going to give it a 2.5 out of 5.
That's exactly where I was going to.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
want to read a Superman comic so bad. I want to read it, buy it every week, and enjoy it, but I just can't.
No. And again, this is the first time on this podcast in 6, almost 7 years that we've ever covered the character. I've never done Superman before until now. Until this Frank Miller, John Romita Jr. series. And I want to eventually do more Superman, but not if it's going to be like this. And I know not every writer writes stories like Frank Miller does, so that's a good thing. Hopefully I can talk to a couple Superman buddies of mine that can... And we've talked about several issues that we might do later on, maybe next year in our 7th year of the podcast in 2020. But as of right now, at this point, after reading this second issue, I'm like... I'll just go back and watch Lois and Clark from the 90s. Thank you very much.
In the animated series.
Yep, in the animated series, yep.
And listeners, if you do want to read a good Superman comic, you've got to go pick up Superman for All Seasons. That one was really good. And Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale also did a series that took place in the Superman Confidential comic. It was a short series. And it was about 11 issues long, and then there was a break, and then they concluded the story issues later from the Jeff Loeb Tim Sale. Like the whole story changed because they weren't done with it on time or something. That is another good Superman story that I think is collected in trade by now. But those are the only 2 ones that I've just absolutely thoroughly enjoyed. And I think it's the only comics that I've read that really get Superman right.
So, before we go into, basically, because of the way scheduling works, folks, and everything else, basically, Superman Year 1, number 3 is going to be the final episode of the podcast for 2019. It is slated to be episode 380.5 on whatever that last Wednesday is for this year. For Christmas. So, yeah, so with saying that, Superman Year 1, number 3, here is the description on Comixology.
Oh boy.
It is the jaw-dropping conclusion to Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.'s blockbuster reimagining of Superman's origin. In this final chapter, Clark Kent arrives in Metropolis, the city where he will fulfill his heroic destiny. Witness the first meeting between Superman and Lois Lane, the beginnings of Clark Kent's career at the Daily Planet, and the birth of his rivalry with Lex Luthor. But when the Joker arrives on the scene, the Man of Steel must enlist the help of his 2 strange new friends, Wonder Woman and Batman.
All right. It's got potential.
It's got potential, but why do you have to throw the other 2 of the holy trinity of DC? Why do you have to throw Wonder Woman and Batman in there? Yeah. Why do you have to put the Joker in there? Why can't you just leave it at being it's everything I said before I said the Joker, Wonder Woman, and Batman? Why can't it just be Superman and Lois, Clark and the Daily Planet, and Superman and Lex Luthor?
And if you really need some other monkey wrench in there, throw the Toyman in there.
Toyman or Mizius Pidlick.
Yep.
Something that doesn't require
a Batman villain
or a Wonder Woman or yeah, exactly, a Batman villain, and then require so here's hoping, folks. Issue 3 is better. Here's hoping we can end this year. So, we've only been around for 6.5, almost 7 years, this podcast. But this is the end of the decade this year. And I'm not sure I want to end the decade on Superman Year 1. So that episode might get moved around. I don't know yet. Not sure.
Oh, Ninja Turtles 100 is in December.
Yep, that's true. But we are so far behind on that, too. That's very true. But we are like... what was the last Turtle thing we did, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Lord. Invasion of the Triceratons, I believe, was the last thing. Or, no, Kingdom of Rats. Kingdom of Rats was the last thing. So we got some catching up to do on that before we can get to issue 100, sadly. And with it being holiday time, everybody has plans and has family stuff and everything else, folks. I'll tell you this now. Next week, we've got Ryan Merkley and I talking about Star Wars, the 2015 Jason Aaron series, volumes 1 and 2. And then in November, we've got 2 episodes for you. Not 4 this time around, but we're kind of slowing it down for the end of the year. We've got Back to the Future Volume 5, which is the final thing for that main ongoing. And then a one-shot WWE Forever #1. And then December is Transformers Galaxies 1 to 4, which is the Constructicons Rising story, Spider-Verse, and then, as I said already, Superman Year 1, number 3. So, we'll see what happens. Anything you got going on that you want to pimp out or anything?
Nothing going on right now. Geek Sale is over. It was awesome and huge and 50 vendors, and we'll try to do it again in either June or September. I haven't even decided. The September one seemed to be more popular. It's a little more comfortable outside.
Yeah, as much as I love the idea of what the Geek Stuff Garage Sale is, I don't know if I want to be walking around whatever place you have it in the middle of summer.
In 90 degrees. No, it's not fun.
Yeah, no, not fun.
Nope. Nice cool fall day in September. Haven't had any rain. It's a lot more pleasant.
Yep. All right, where can the people find you online, sir?
You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/geekstuffgaragesale. I take messages there and get them immediately. I have an Instagram. I've given it to my students when I do cool art projects or design things or find cool buildings, but I need to figure out if I want to make that available to everybody out there. I don't know what kind of connectivity that has, but I'm making some cool projects, and that's maybe I should figure out how to share that with your good listeners here.
Cool.
So, hey, we'll pay attention to that and look for that, and maybe it'll happen.
Cool. I am at TFG1Mike on Twitter. You can also follow at The Pullbag and at Geekcast Radio on Twitter, as well as check us out on Facebook and everything everywhere else. Also, obviously, geekcastradio.com. We've got a lot of cool things going on. I don't know how many podcasts you actually listen to, but earlier this year is the first time. I started listening to podcasts. I didn't start producing them. I listened to them for about a year or so before I said, "Hey, I can do this." And I have not listened to a lot since I started producing, but I started listening to a show called Music Talks Podcast. It's with this guy named Terry Smith. He's over there in the UK, and what he does is he has a single guest on each episode. They pick one song for every decade of their life, and they talk about why they chose that one song.
Wow.
He's got 9 official episodes out. He's got a couple of B-sides that he's done, special, extended kind of, hey, you heard this on episode 8. Well, here's episode 8's B-side and a little bit more of that or whatever. It's very fun. I listen to it every second Tuesday that it comes out. Very, very cool. So I'm going to be doing I'm going to be doing 3 different shows with him. What I'm going to do is he's going to have me on his show. I'm going to give my choices. I'm going to have him on Geekcast Radio, and I'm going to have him do his list over again, because he had said a couple of times recently, like, if he could change his list, he would swap a song out for another song. And I'm like, oh, hey, how about you just come on this show and I interview you? So he's going to do that, and then he's going to interview me again on my show, because I want to see if I can take an artist or band and fit their songs into the decade, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s kind of thing. And I've got this one specific band in mind, and people can go check that out once it's eventually online. So a lot of cool things going on here at Geekcast Radio. We've got Altered Geek still going with Steve Megatron. What else is going on? We've got Pogs. We got Powers of Grayskull series still going. We're almost done with the 2002 He-Man cartoon series. Just go check out geekcastradio.com, folks. Everything is there. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time.
You still try to fight. Can't you see that it's hopeless?
That man won't quit as long as he can still draw a breath. None of my teammates will. Me? I've got a different problem. I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.